Welcome to D&D Daily. I'm Daphne, and as ever, Dan is here alongside me.
Hey everyone, great to be here.
Today's story is one that rewards careful attention because on the surface it looks like a straightforward business deal, but underneath it is something considerably more intriguing. Southeast Asia's ride-hailing and delivery giant Grab has announced it will acquire foodpanda's Taiwan operations for $600 million. That is roughly 193 billion new Taiwan dollars. Now, Dan, 600 million sounds like a great deal of money, but here is the thing. Just over a year ago, Uber tried to buy the very same business for $950 million.
So Grab got it for around 60% of what Uber offered. That's a pretty significant discount. What happened there?
Precisely the right question. And the answer requires us to go back in time, to 2018 to be exact. That year, Uber made a pivotal decision. It sold its entire Southeast Asian ride-hailing business to Grab, receiving a 27.5% stake in Grab in return. Uber was, in effect, retreating from a brutal price war it was not winning. In exchange, Grab became the dominant force across 8 Southeast Asian nations, holding roughly 70% of the ride-hailing market and over 50% of food delivery.
So Uber basically said, we can't beat you, so let's make a deal. And part of that deal was a non-compete agreement, right? They agreed not to go into each other's markets.
Correct. According to Grab's IPO filing with the US Securities and Exchange Commission, both companies agreed not to compete directly in each other's core markets. That agreement was set to expire in March 2023, or 1 year after Uber had fully sold off its Grab shares, whichever came later. Now, since Uber has not entirely divested its Grab stake, the precise legal status of that agreement remains, shall we say, somewhat ambiguous.
So they're technically still in this gray zone. I mean, Uber still owns about 13.5% of Grab. That's a significant chunk. They're not exactly strangers.
Which brings us back to Taiwan. Let us trace what happened there. In May 2024, Uber announced it would acquire foodpanda Taiwan for $950 million. Taiwan's food delivery market is, by any measure, substantial. Annual gross merchandise value of around $1.8 billion, already profitable at the adjusted EBITDA level, and Uber Eats Taiwan was ranked among Uber's top 10 markets globally. This was not a minor market. This mattered.
But Taiwan's Fair Trade Commission blocked it. They studied the deal for 225 days and said no, because Uber Eats and foodpanda were already the 2 biggest delivery platforms in Taiwan. Combining them would give the merged company over 90% market share. That's essentially a monopoly.
Uber eventually chose not to appeal the ruling and paid a breakup fee of approximately $250 million, a record-breaking penalty in Taiwan's M&A history. So the asset remained unsold, delivery heroes still wanted out, and Taiwan's market was waiting for a new buyer.
And that's where Grab steps in. I have to say, the timing is clever. Grab comes in as a completely new entrant to Taiwan. 0 market share there. So the antitrust concern that blocked Uber simply doesn't apply.
That is the crux of it. Because Grab has no existing presence in Taiwan, this acquisition cannot be framed as a merger between 2 competitors. It is, legally speaking, a new player entering a market. Grab COO noted at the announcement call that this is an entry into a new market, not a consolidation within an existing one, and that the deal benefits consumers by promoting competition rather than reducing it.
Now, why does Taiwan matter so much to Grab strategically? From what I can see, Grab has been struggling on the stock market. Its IPO price was $17 back in 2021, and the stock has been sitting somewhere around $3.5 to $4. That's a drop of about 70%.
Precisely. Grab needed a new growth narrative to present to investors. Taiwan offered three compelling arguments. First, urban density. Taipei's population density is 3.6 times the Southeast Asian average, meaning shorter delivery distances and higher fleet efficiency. Second, purchasing power. Outside Singapore, Taiwan represents the highest income market in Grab's entire service area. Third, single-person households. Over 40% of Taiwan households consist of just one person, which drives consistently high demand for food delivery.
And foodpanda already has strong brand recognition in Taiwan. Over 67% user reach nationally, over 70% in Kaohsiung and secondary cities. That's a head start Grab absolutely did not want to build from scratch. And trust me, building from zero in a new market costs a fortune.
Indeed. And Grab has announced plans to migrate all foodpanda users, merchants, and delivery workers to the Grab app by the first half of 2027. That transition period is frankly the most precarious phase of this entire deal. Users accustomed to the foodpanda interface may defect. Merchants may use the moment to renegotiate commission rates. The question of whether delivery workers' protections will carry over under new ownership is far from settled.
And there's another complication. Taiwan's new food delivery labor law takes effect in July 2026. That changes the cost structure for platforms significantly. It's a regulatory environment Grab has never operated in before.
Delivery Hero's urgency to sell is entirely rational in that context. One industry executive was quoted as saying, quite bluntly, that Taiwan was a dead end for Delivery Hero. No broader ecosystem to leverage, unfamiliar regulatory terrain, and the new law about to raise costs substantially. Grab's CFO has told investors that after 2028, Taiwan could achieve a profit margin above 4%, comparable to Southeast Asian markets. But that projection depends on executing a highly complex integration in a country with significantly stricter financial regulations than anywhere else Grab operates.
Right. Because in Southeast Asia, Grab isn't just a delivery app. It's payments, microloans, digital banking, the whole super app model. In Taiwan, most of that is off the table due to strict licensing requirements. So initially, Grab in Taiwan is basically just delivery and ride-hailing.
Which rather strips away a large portion of Grab's usual competitive advantage. Now, let us address the most fascinating dimension of this story, the Uber angle. Uber is still Grab's single largest institutional shareholder, with approximately 13.5% of shares. The very company that failed to acquire foodpanda Taiwan, that paid $250 million in breakup fees, now sits on Grab's board. As Grab completes the acquisition, Uber could not.
And if Grab grows Taiwan successfully, Uber, as a major shareholder, benefits from that growth. It's a wild situation. Are they rivals? Are they partners? One industry insider apparently put it like this: "We thought they were enemies, and then we realized your rival was actually your lover." That's quite a line.
It is rather apt. Both companies issued remarkably aligned public statements. Grab's CEO called it a win-win-win. Uber's statement praised the bill as validation of Taiwan's market maturity and spoke warmly of healthy competition. The language was almost coordinated. As one observer noted, these are not the words of rivals.
So for our listeners learning English today, the key takeaway vocabulary-wise is words like acquisition, non-compete agreement, regulatory hurdle, and market share. These are terms you'll encounter constantly in business news. And the broader lesson here is that in the corporate world, the line between competitor and partner can be very blurry.
Well summarized. Grab has paid $600 million for a foothold in Taiwan, a new chapter for its growth story, and a test of whether its Southeast Asian super app model can adapt to a markedly different regulatory and consumer environment. Whether it succeeds will depend not merely on money, but on execution, patience, and a rather steep learning curve. That is all for today's episode. Thank you for joining us on D&D Daily. Keep listening, keep learning, and we shall see you next time.
See you then, everyone.